Okay, part 3 is how to graph each equation on the review. So we're going to look at 13 and 15. And so remember that whenever we're graphing, we want to keep in mind our basic equation of A, absolute value of x minus h, plus k. Remember, this is our stretch or compression. This is left or right. And this is up or down. So now that we've kind of identified that, let me shift you back a little bit so you can see. There we go. Now that we've identified that a little bit, there's a couple more things we have to worry about. We have to worry about whether or not there is a negative sign with A, and if there is, that's a reflection. Okay, so if there's no negative sign, there's no reflection, but if there is, then it's gonna flip on us. So let's look at one last thing before we begin. We have to think about, and let me drag that up, there you go. We have to think about the vertex. Our vertex is going to be x comma y, and in our absolute value graph, which is a v, it is this point right here, the bottom of our v. Well, that x comma y is also labeled as our h comma k. So whatever our h and k are, that's our vertex. So if we look at 13, we have -2 absolute value of x minus 1 minus 4. So if I were to ask what's your a, what's your h, and what's your k, you could come in and tell me that my a is -2, my h is x minus 1 equals 0, where I add 1 to both sides, and I get x equals 1, therefore my h is 1, and my k is -4. So if I were to say, what's your vertex? You would tell me that it's h comma k, which in our case is 1 comma -4. So now if I want to graph this, I need to make a table of values, x's and y's, and I need to have 1, -4 in the middle. Pick a number that's on either side. I like to pick 0 and 2. If I plug 0 back into my equation of -2 times the absolute value of x minus 1 minus 4, I get -2 times the absolute value of 0 minus 1 minus 4, which is equal to 0 minus 1. The absolute value of that is -1. And if I take the absolute value, I'll get 1. So I get -2 times 1 minus 4. Well, that's going to be -2 minus 4, which is equal to -6. If I plug 2 in, I'm going to get 2 minus 1. So I'm going to get -2 times the absolute value of 2 minus 1 minus 4, which is equal to -2 times the absolute value of 2 minus 1, which is 1, minus 4. So then we'll get -2 minus 4, which again is -6. So now that I have all my points, if I come in here and graph, at 0, I have -6. At 1, I have -4. And at 2, I have -6. And yes, it's just a sketch. So when I graph it, boom, there's my graph. And it should be pointing down because I have a negative value in front of my A. And as we see here in the table, I have -6, -4, -6. So I have my V with my numbers. Okay, let's do one more. This will be the last one for me on the review. And the rest you will be on your own. So keeping this here, let me rewrite it a little bit because I erased it a little bit. We have right and compression. Okay, So this is question 15, where I have -2 times the absolute value of x plus 2. So what's my A? What's my H? What's my K? Sorry, the bell is kicking in real quick. Let's take a second. So if we look here, my A, once again, is a -2. My K is going to be 0 because I don't have a K this time. And my H is going to be x plus 2 equals 0. So we subtract 2 and we get x is equal to -2. So my H is going to be -2. So then my vertex then is going to be H and K, which is -2, 0. So if I make a table of values with x and y, I have one at -2 and one at 0, and pick a number on either side. So I'm going to pick -3 and -1. If I plug -3 back in here, I get -2 times the absolute value of -3 plus 2. And that's going to equal something. Well, -3 plus 2 is -1. The absolute value of that is 1 times -2. There's -2. Plug in the next one. I have -2 times the absolute value of... Sorry, let's try that. -2 times the absolute value of -1 plus 2. Well, -1 plus 2 is 1 times -2. That equals -2. So you see how we have our V again. We have -2, 0, -2. So when I graph this, at -2, I have 0. At -3, I have -2. And at -1, I have -2. So my graph is pointing down. And I have my new graph. And that concludes everything on this part of the review. And it covers how to do the AHK using the equation that you can use for the later part of the review. Hopefully this helps. This is part 3. Good luck on your exam coming up.